Welcome back to the channel. I'm Yao, and this is my iPad mini 6 review. If you've seen my iPhone 13 mini review, you may start to get the sense I've got a thing for tiny devices. You might also be right. But back to this iPad. Like the name implies, it's a smalls version of Apple's iPad, and it really lives up to the billing, with an 8.3-inch screen that's not so much bigger than the 6.7-inch screen on Apple's iPhone Pro Max. It's up a bit from the most recent iPads, which had 7.9-inch screens, and that's because this iPad mini is the latest to get Apple's flat-sided, thin-bezeled glow-up, following the iPads Pro, iPad Air, iPhones 12 and 13. It's a good look, and it suits this iPad nicely. By removing the Touch ID button, Apple simultaneously made the screen bigger and the device smaller, using the extra real estate to pull quite the magic trick of industrial design. And because of this, the iPad mini is a joy to hold. Turns out it feels nice to be able to comfortably hold the tech you use for long stretches, and the iPad's diminutive size and slightly chunky bezels make for excellent grippability, which is totally a word. Totally. Let's move on. The new 8.3-inch screen can fit a full-size iPad's worth of content thanks to its Retina-level pixel density. You're not going to get as much content as on the 12.9-inch iPad Pro, but you're also not going to strain your arm holding up the thing to read. It's all about trade-offs. Some folks have encountered a situation where the iPad screen will bounce in a jelly-like way when scrolling through content fast. I'm sure it's there, though I've never seen it. I'm also not one to read my iPad while scrolling back and forth like a madman, so for me this whole controversy is kind of... Something that isn't a shrug is the speed on this iPad. The iPad's using a clocked-down version of Apple's latest mobile chip, the A15, found in the latest iPhone line as well. Practically speaking, it means that this iPad is plenty fast today and has a long runway of being a top-of-the-line device. This is great because Apple has a nasty habit of not updating the iPad mini for years at a time, so good on them for making it a top-line device as they launch it. Unlike the iPad Pros and the iPhones, this visual redesign didn't include Face ID for the mini. Instead, much like its bigger sibling the iPad Air, this mini has a Touch ID sensor built into its power button. It's taken a bit of getting used to, after years of training myself to swipe up on the iPad lock screen and start using it. But when I do remember I have to touch a sensor, it's fast and responsive to unlock the iPad. Maybe in 5 years, when they update this again, Face ID sensors will be cheap enough to throw in here as well. One neat feature this iPad did pick up from its Pro Bros is Center Stage. That's Apple's marketing term for the really wide-angle front-facing camera they put on the front of the device. Then, using machine learning and face detection, they changed the crop of the camera to keep your face framed and even expand the crop to include others as they walk into the shot. It's really quite clever, and the algorithm is well tuned to smoothly follow you around and move in a way that seems almost like you have a professional camera operator. This feature works with Apple's FaceTime, but is also available in other video chatting apps like Zoom, Google Meet, and Microsoft Teams. And given where things are today with so much virtual work, that's a pretty handy feature. If Apple had really wanted to make this a home run, they could have put the front-facing camera on the side of the iPad so that when you prop it up on a table to do a video chat, you're not looking off to the side. Now, luckily, this iPad is nice to hold. Did I mention that already? I might have mentioned already. So it's not a big deal to grab it in portrait mode for more natural-looking video chats. Speaking of the side of the iPad, unlike iPads of the past, there are no volume buttons to be found. Those have moved to the top of the device. More on that later. All this space is reserved for one of Apple's most wonderful accessories, the Apple Pencil 2. One of the biggest wins of the iPad design language refresh was the introduction of the second-generation pencil. By flattening one side of the pencil, as well as the iPad, Apple paved the way for a solution that no one anticipated, but seems so obvious now that we have it. On this particular iPad with its smaller dimensions, the pencil takes up pretty much the entire side of the device. As a combo, this also holdable iPad and a pencil that's always along for the ride make for a wonderful note-taking pair. Combine that with all the note-taking power features Apple has built into the OS, like instant notes from the lock screen and quick notes when the device is already on, and you've got a super handy, super portable note-taking powerhouse. I've always been an iPad mini stan. I love to read and have never really taken to e-ink readers like the Kindle. My reading process involves a lot of in-the-moment note-taking, and the iPad just supports that flow for me much better. And I love kicking back on the couch and catching a cool YouTube video on the mini. As a content consumption device, this iPad is pretty hard to beat. But don't let the size fool you. With this A15 processor, there's more than enough power to get real work done. I will occasionally process photos in Lightroom or make edits in Pixelmator, and the iPad has no trouble keeping up. One thing Apple has rarely done is try to make the iPad mini a budget-focused device. The entry-level $329 no adjective iPad plays that role in the lineup. This iPad, starting at $399, is a reasonably expensive, pretty powerful, targeted device for people who know they want a small tablet and know what they want to do with it. I fall squarely in the target demo for this iPad, and I couldn't be happier with what they've done with it. I'm glad to have this iPad in my life, and my wallet is glad that Apple won't make another one for a few years. If I had to describe this iPad, I'd say it's small but mighty, and a worthy add to the lives of small gadget aficionados everywhere. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed yourself, hit that like button, and go ahead and subscribe if you'd like to see more reviews like this. I'll see you in the next video.